Good evening. Tonight on the Apex News Above the Noise podcast, we are diving into a major developing story that could reshape the future of higher education right here in the Commonwealth. Kentucky Senate Bill 185 has officially passed the state Senate and is now headed to the House. And if it becomes law, it could bring significant changes to how Kentucky State University is governed, funded, and operated moving forward. This isn't just policy. This has real implications for students, faculty, the capital city, and of course the future of Kentucky State University. I am Kyle. I'm joined every night with my friend Craig Blanton. Tonight we are joined by a special guest, that being Senator Jay Williams. Senator, we appreciate you being here tonight. Sorry for all the technical difficulties. Let's start right here. For people who are just hearing about Senate Bill 185, what does this bill actually do? Why was it necessary right now for Kentucky State University?
It refocuses Kentucky State University to be a polytechnical institute. And it is a really major victory for Dr. Acapo and what he did to lead it from the beginning of this session. It wasn't sure that there was even going to be a budget, that they were going to probably on track to shut this down. But he came in, talked with the leadership of the House and Senate got together. You can see some snippets on the floor. I talked to them early on in the session, and it was doom and gloom. But as it turns out, they really probably have got the best deal of any university in the state. Their baseline budget wasn't cut. They got all the money they needed for their what they call asset preservation, which is the maintenance and the renovation of their buildings. They got, in the second year of the biennium, the money they need to begin the construction of the new science and technical school. And the trade-off for that, and this is what some people are going to be concerned about, as a polytechnical institute, some of the programs are not going to continue on. So there's a transition over 5 years of some of the existing programs. They're going to concentrate on the polytech. And that the president has been given extraordinary powers due to the exigency of the situation on that, which means he is probably more powerful than any other president of any university in the state of Kentucky and probably among the nation, because he's charged and has a deadline to really turn the university around and focus it in the new direction.
Senator, going back a couple of years ago, Chris McDaniel and others in the Kentucky State Senate and even in the House were very frustrated with what was happening with Kentucky State University. They had allocated $24 million to essentially bail out Kentucky State University with a number of financial issues that they had, and they put some specific requirements on that money, and they said that Kentucky State was going to have to meet certain audit requirements. Can you tell me a little bit about going into the session, what the expectations were, and how we got to this point, if you will?
Well, quite frankly, they hadn't met any of those expectations, okay, or very few of them. What was supposed to happen, there was an interim president before Dr. Acapo, and what he was supposed to come in and he was there for a couple, maybe only 2 years, maybe 3. Yeah, well, it was 2 years. He was supposed to come in and essentially get the audits done. They hadn't had an audit in some time at that point that had been completed. He was supposed to come in and get the audits done to sort of clean things up. There was a culture that the university was there, and right or wrong, but certainly because of the lack of audits, you can't tell, was there for the staff and not as much for the students. Literally, the university, the students are $20 million in debt to the university. And actually, that may be low. $200 million, excuse me, not 20, is what has accumulated over all these years is owed to the university from the students. The students weren't paying it, and it was putting a tremendous debt load on the students as well, but they weren't paying the university. So there was a lot of fiscal mismanagement that was to be cleaned up. What happened is none of that was addressed. Now, CPE came in, they were overseeing it, they had control and say, but not really the close management. So when Dr. Acapo came in, he was supposed to come into an institution that had gotten its audits, caught up, had some of the deadwood, the programs, the historical maybe staff there that weren't pulling their weight, and he was supposed to have gotten his students turned around where they weren't in continuing debt, and they weren't getting classes from teachers that the university had to pay, but the students weren't paying the university. But he came into none of that was done. He was in the old situation. So he had set the new vision. He had to work through all of those programs. I think that what this bill has done is realize what he has accomplished. They've gotten a lot more of the audits done. They are turning the culture of the university around. They've had some serious challenges, but they've addressed head on. And but what he needed is support, and what was eventually described as a partnership with the General Assembly in moving forward and getting the assets he needed to make this an ongoing university, and really recapture the original vision of KSU and turn it into a polytechnical university like many of those, keeping the land grant portion of it and keeping some of the historic HCBU portion of it, but really exercises the land grant. Getting $50 million to build a science building, that's a big deal. So he had a lot of challenges that were not expected in the last 2 years. And as a result, he wasn't able to really shift into this new vision. He also met a lot of resistance. So what this bill does is basically leans very heavily on Dr. Capo. And he has the ability to have greater administrative control over almost all aspects of the university. And the CPE is looking over them much closer. They've loosened some things, like before they had if they had $500 of a contract, they had to get to CPE. We've loosened that to make that in a university you can't be going to CPE, who's not really an operating entity, and asking them every time you spend more than $500. So they loosen some operating controls, but they tighten oversight. They have to shift this next year to EMARS, which is the state's accounting system, budgeting and accounting system, so that we will be able to track in real time all those expenditures that he's now authorized to make. And there's a number of other things that he is now authorized to do, which is basically he's going to be responsible for identifying. He can't run a budget deficit, period. I think he has done a good job of getting the budget going on this and writing the organization. And then he has to align. They've been in trouble with accreditation, but they have a path out. So he's got to implement the pathway to full accreditation. He's got to get rid of the programs that don't align with the long-term vision of the accreditors and KSU as a polytechnical university. And then there's one other thing they did that really is an administrative thing, but it really is from the administration a number of years ago when they built these new dorms for them. They got them into a P3 that's a very, very difficult P3 and very expensive P3 that they have no control on. That was really a serious drain on the budget. So we put some language in there that will help encourage the private portion of that public-private lease to renegotiate and maybe hopefully get better terms for the long-term sake of the university. They don't do it, quite frankly, the university was not going to be there anymore. They're going to be filling the dorms. But they have the absolute authority now to have staff for 1,000 on-campus students. And many of the other programs will shift off campus. And this is what they have space for right now. But that's where they really need to pare down to that 1,000, concentrate on that, get down to fewer of the academic programs that they can really excel at. And I think it's very exciting to see. And I would never, ever have believed this was led by Senator from Kenton, Chris McDaniel, who has been just a skeptic
a vocal
along.
critic. I think a vocal critic, I think, is the way to say that about Senator McDaniel.
I was trying to be kind and say he was skeptical. Okay,
Yeah,
you would probably be more apt to say he was very critical.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
But David Gibbons was, I think, instrumental in pulling this group today. Of course, several members are Minority Floor Leader Gerald Neal, who I served with back in the 1990s. He's a tireless advocate for KSU, and so he also did it. Was in the group and has always been pushing. And you know, everybody can be an advocate, but not see how to make it work. They come together and they're making it work. And so I think that's a miracle. Doctor, I can't say enough about Dr. Akapo, about his character, about his commitment. And I tell you what, it took every bit of his faith to carry through, because I think it was probably his prayer life that made this happen. That was the only chance they had at the beginning of the session, was a prayer. And I don't think there's anybody in the assembly that would have predicted this outcome at this point.
Senator Williams, one of the things that we had talked about on yesterday's show was the fact that there were a number of not just financial issues with the school, but there were some safety issues at the school that have popped up, which complicate its relationship with the city of Frankfort and obviously the legislature. But one of the tough things that we had talked about was that there were some financial issues, and it's been reported in local news and also across the state that potentially there were some vendors who hadn't been paid and some things of that nature, and the university had come out and said, no, we handled that. This will correct that issue to an extent, at least in the sense that they're going to have to meet these financial burdens to be able to move forward, and it will actually kind of pare down the total number of programs that they have. Is that a good way of putting it?
Yes. They have to have a budget. They cannot run a deficit budget. They cannot borrow money this year, okay? And they think they can do that. They can have a balanced budget. They will transition to the state's accounting system so that they will be able to track and pay their vendors using an accounting system that hopefully will be able to generate an audit of this year going forward. Their past accounting practices were not able to really complete an audit. They didn't actually have the backup and the data for it. But they have that now. They're going forward on that. So I don't think we'll have the case of the vendors not being paid in the future on that.
Well, when I watched the vote today on KET, I noticed you spoke about some money that was going to be coming forward they wouldn't have got. Was that the science and technology building money you were referencing?
Well, yeah, that was the $50 million. I mean, in the beginning, when I'm went in to advocate, it wasn't that there's $50 million for a science technology new building that they need. The nurse training is going. They're in the gym right now. They don't have the space for it. The buildings where they were housed is too small and too antiquated to really have that. So they are going to get the money for that. The other thing is what they call asset preservation, and they have over the decades. The assets they have, the dorms, you go up there and look at all these dorms out there. It looks like it's very impressive from the outside, but you walk through some of those buildings there's shells on the inside on that. Some of the dorms up there are shells on the inside. Some of the academic buildings that might look good on the outside are really, some of them are dangerous. And so they needed a significant amount of resource for asset preservation that was also granted.
Sure.
In the tens of millions of dollars that was also granted to them on that they've been asking for a number of years.
And there was something when we got the notification around midnight last night. That's when we saw it, and then KSU what they posted on their Facebook page later today. There's new criteria for the students. Can you talk about that? The 2.5, the ACT score, things like that to get. And the thing that I didn't know last night that I was telling Kyle, I didn't know what a polytechnic university was. And it's science, technology, engineering, and math, which is the future of the country.
And
right. That's what.
Senator Williams is a tech guy, so he probably really enjoyed to see that.
My son and son-in-law are both engineers. So, and you are, Jay. So,
Oh, yes. Well, even their land, I mean, Polytech is broad. So land grant, and as you know, the agriculture community is traditionally very tech deep. Okay. And you go and see where they're doing all sorts of stuff with drones right now. They have a drone center of tech where they're doing their farms. They're all tech driven out here. So it's a very, even the land grant is very technical, and they're moving into the next generation of technology. So that is an exciting folks. And so I said to somebody, well, we may not have a lot of governor, in the past, a lot of government workers got management degrees in government. I don't know if that's one of the programs that will go away, but it's certainly not an emphasis, okay, on that. And you're going to see some of the other really non-tech or jobs that really don't match with the technical environment we're in the future. They're going to go away, and so there's going to be some very tough decisions that he's going to have to make.
It'll certainly benefit the nursing program, like you said, which I've got a cousin that graduated from there, and she's a PA oncologist. Really smart young lady, and she graduated from KSU. And so the nurses, I didn't know they're meeting in the gym, literally. The nurses.
That's what I've been told. That's where they're having the class, and so that needs to change. Now, the College of Education will also continue on here, so they're going to continue that and fitting in. I don't know if that's part of the transition, but that's really what they're looking at. So they are going to focus. Some of those other programs will go online, which are much less expensive to deliver on campus as well in the transition period.
We saw that the liberal arts degrees will go, a majority of them will go online. What is the plan, or has there been any discussions, or as Dr. Apopko said, what is the plan for the students who are currently there and the ones who are currently enrolled in some of these degree programs?
There's a 5-year transition. They'll be able to continue there, and some of them may move online, but my understanding is, and again, he got to flesh out the details. He is in charge of a transition plan so that those that are there now can continue in their programs, but they'll be transitioning to the new fields, and they'll be maybe some completely phasing out some of those, taking others online on that, and they won't be residents here. But I want to go back to what Craig did. One of the key things is, and one of the disservices, I think it's not just a KSU issue, but that a lot of universities are doing these days, is they're bringing in students that are struggling to meet the level of performance they need at a university, but racking up debt. Or they're meeting the level of performance in a career field that isn't going to be able to pay back the debt they're incurring. And so that's one of the key things here is we're narrowing the programs to good paying or technical careers that should pay back. And we're requiring a 2.5 or better just to get into the university on that. And so that's going to raise the level and probably continue have students that can be successful in meeting the demands of the university environment. And if they're taking out loans or they're paying their money, they'll be able to do it. On the other side of it, we're not going to let that student go into debt more than $1,000. Okay, they have to, if they go more than $1,000 in arrears, then it says 3 months. But really what that means is it doesn't mean they may be having a financial situation. They may have some issue that came up. They couldn't meet the $1,000 this month or 3 months. They can work out a payment plan with somebody if they have to, but they have to work it out. They have to be paying it. They cannot be continuing to build up debt, which is not good for the university because the university has to pay its staff has to pay for the the power and electricity to teach that student. And if they don't get the revenue coming in, they can't balance their budget. They can't just borrow money. And the student, on the flip side, for the student, that student should really not be going into debt if he's struggling that much. And maybe it's better to go out in business, go work for a company that will put you through college later on if you want to move ahead. So it's essential for the university to balance its budget and not let its students get behind. And it's essential, I think, for the students not to build up a big debt burden that they're not going to be able to pay off.
In the Kentucky State, in their press release that they put out, they said this would be a transformational partnership with the General Assembly. Do you foresee this as, and I'm sure there are people who are going to ask this question, we're not band-aiding something here. We are transforming what this university was, not losing its HBCU status, but transforming the type of school that it was. And this is not just a band-aid a situation, but to move forward with really a university that the local folks in the state of Kentucky could be very proud of. Is that a very fair statement?
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. And it's not, there are a lot of land grant and HBCU universities that are polytechnical institutes. So being a polytechnical institute is not incompatible with a land grant or HBCU university. They go together. They can work together. Now we got away from that in the past. So we're going to do the future. But I can tell you, it's going to be great. The culture of the university is going to change. I think Dr. Capo is really the driving agent, has been given the tools, and I think he's got the character and determination to change that culture from what it has been to the future. There are a number of people who are sort of the old culture, or what I'll call this interim culture they had, because I know a number. Gerald Neal, who's a senator, has been there for. He's the dean of the Senate. He's been there longer than everyone. He is graduate back in, probably the 50s. I don't know when he graduated, but probably sometime in the 60s or the 50s back there. Arnold Simpson, who was a state rep from Northern Kentucky for years, was just an outstanding member. And quite frankly, I think Arnold Simpson probably called and talked to Senator McDaniel about what KSU was when they were going through. And it's gotten away from that. And that's what they want to restore, that drive and the education of the kind of leaders that we've seen with Representative Simpson, Senator Neal, and a number of others. But you have to recognize that for the last decade or two, they have not lived up to the historic standards of the university itself. And so that culture is going to change.
Well, thanks to AI, Jay, Senator Neal graduated from KSU in 1967 with
67. Okay.
He won't be upset with you for saying that then.
Right. History of political science. I love this AI stuff. It's just amazing.
It is. It's great.
I remember back in the day, they brought President Burst retired from KSU, and they brought him back for this same thing, and there was just a ton of students that owed money, and he kicked out all kinds of students, hundreds and hundreds of students, till they paid their money back to get back in the good. Is that what you're talking about when there's all this money that's owed back to the university?
Yes.
For student tuition?
If somebody owes more than $1,000, and they're not, and they can have a payment plan by which they're repaying it. But if they're not making payments to the payment plan or getting under $1,000, they will no longer be students there. Now, right. That's what's going to happen.
I didn't mean to interrupt. I was going to say, and Kyle, you tell me too, because we've both been here a long time. This is the biggest announcement in Frankfort in decades.
Absolutely.
Maybe my lifetime.
I can tell you, Senator, that Craig and I were talking at midnight last night about these press releases coming out, and I don't quite think the folks who are reading it on social media today and maybe reading in the Herald Leader, which oddly enough, there was a terrible headline in the Herald Leader about regardless, this is going to change not just the university. It'll help change Frankfort, and I would imagine there will be some collaborative work once the Polytechnic Institute is set up, and there's a lot more programs there. There'll be some collaborative work with the state of Kentucky, especially as we are trying to move into more technology firms coming into the state and things of that nature. Was that a vision or a goal from your committee?
Yeah, well, that's the goal. I'm on the Information Technology Oversight Committee. We deal with a lot of different things, but government is going to be much more technically oriented than it has been in the past. That's clear. That's going to get. So this will play right into it, from the cybersecurity to a lot of other issues on that. But it is going to be, there's a 5-year window on this to be successful. That's what they've got. And Dr. Acapo has got 5 years to turn it around. And that's going to mean there were some people at the meeting where we were listening to this that were not so sure, because I think you will find there are people that are going to lose their jobs. With the good, there's always pain. When you're working, when you're changing, when you're as an athlete, when you're building up, there is some pain ahead. And I think Dr. Acapo will do his best to work things out. But it for some people, it's going to be painful, because some of those individuals that are in the programs that are not going to go forward are going to have some tough decisions to make. And he basically has the ability to, because the difficulties, I can't say this word, exigency, excuse me. Okay. He has some pretty extraordinary powers. Now, we've actually in another bill have given more powers to some other universities too, when there's financial difficulties. And you might translate that into tenure is not going to be as big a barrier as it has been to cost cutting at a university on that. And KSU is going to probably be the first one where the tenure is not going to protect you when you're in a program that's no longer going to continue forward, or you're in a financial crisis where you have to deal with some things. That's not going to be a protection.
Yeah, we read that in the bill. Now, carrying forward with what Kyle said, I'm sure you're aware Frank County's partnering with Anderson County on the FAC district, the computer and technology thing. Do you think with KSU going into the polytechnic world, got to get used to saying that, this will help attract high-tech companies to Frankfort?
Well, that's the hope. And one of the things that Dr. Acapo was great at when he was at the Bluegrass Community Technical, he was the president over there for this region, was partnering with businesses in the area to meet the needs. Now, he did a lot of that with the nursing programs back then, partnering with the businesses to get out the kind of workers that they needed. And I expect that he will continue partnering with tech companies that are coming into the area, or that are in the area, in order to produce the students that they need. That's what a polytech do. We need students that are technically aware. We need students that are not afraid of AI, but know how to use AI.
In 5 years, the country's going to change, isn't it? If it takes, it might change in a year.
Yeah, well, I think we're in 3 years, under 3 years, it's going to be a very different country. And the way that we access data and operate is going to be very different than what we used to do. And we're going to have to use it's interesting, because people are afraid that AI is going to do all the thinking for us. I don't know, it might do a lot of memory for us, but it's going to make us have greater cognitive analysis of the data we're going to receive. They're going to be able to, it's presenting data to us, but we have to ask it what data, we have to ask the questions. And the most difficult thing is sometimes not the answer. No, it's not the answers. It's know what questions to ask when you're turning something around. we are going to have to know the right questions. We got to train people out there that know the questions to ask AI to get the results that they can then analyze to move forward.
Senator Williams, go ahead.
One more. Yeah. Look at what we're doing today. You're down at the Capitol.
Yep.
I'm out of the southwest part of Franklin County. Kyle's on the east side of town. We could have done this from your home up in northern Kentucky.
We would have done it easier from my home in northern Kentucky. I wouldn't have had to go through
we would have been on time.
We would have been on time. Firewall. We would have been on time. I would have been on my primary camera, not this alternate one on my phone. But yeah,
I never, when I retired from state government in 2007, ever imagined anything like this. And Kyle and I are, we certainly appreciate you being on. We're
Absolutely.
just tickled to death with what we're doing. And getting people like you on and others that we get in the future is really cool. But this thing with KSU is just, I think it's going to be just an amazing thing. And I hope our elected officials jump all over this and help KSU every way possible.
Absolutely. One of the things, Senator, that Dr. Acapo said and what was in the press release, and I read some of his statements, was that it's time for the alumni to embrace these changes as well. This is not a situation where we're changing. We don't want the alumni or the past to. We want the alumni to come back to Kentucky State and to support these changes. I see that as a major cog in this wheel here, that you have to have buy-in from those who have the tradition with the school as well, and you have to have a buy-in from the city of Frankfort, because let's be honest, this is our university, and so we need that as well. And one last question before we get into other legislative updates: is there any? Do you foresee any stumbling blocks with the House or with the governor's signature on this plan?
Oh no. Well, not with the House. I'll never predict what this governor is going to do, but like he'll sign it. He would be foolish not to sign it. And it's interesting. So the Senate has 3 alums of KSU there, and everyone, even Senator Neal, had some, because there's some tough medicine. There's a few bitter pills they've got to sign. In this bill that's going to be a change from the current situation. But every one of them came around. They worked with them. And every one of them voted for the bill and spoke very highly of the leadership of the House and the Senate. Okay, I presume they will also convince the governor to go along with the legislature, maybe for the first time ever.
Well,
that was a little bit of a joke.
No,
okay,
but let's be honest. In today's tenor and environment politically, it is getting more and more rare to find any bill in the Senate or the House that everybody, we're not talking resolutions, a bill that everyone will vote for, even on a state level. And to be quite honest, I see this as something that the governor will probably, he'll probably hang his hat on as he's, trying to move on to Washington or whatever he does.
It will be his idea. Well, you will see. Yeah, I guarantee you, it will go out the national press release that he put it together and did the impossible.
Absolutely.
But you see bills that don't do much might get everybody, but you rarely see a bill as consequential as this one get a unanimous vote.
Well, as a member of this community my whole life, as someone who has had ties to Kentucky State University and many friends and family who have attended Kentucky State University and know the connections there. I know I speak for Craig. Thank you all for the hard work on this. We will reach out to Senator McDaniel as well, because we do know how difficult these decisions were, and we greatly appreciate all of your hard work on this.
Well, you might want to also reach out to Senator Gibbons on that, who stays just right across. I can see his house from my office here in the annex. Okay, with his wife. And he will give you. He's been a champion. He was a champion for KSU before he got Senator McDaniel on board. Okay, so he might be able to give you more of a blow by blow with everybody. Senator McDaniel will give you the description of how I went from being a a critic, a doomsayer, to
I've
be an
read his
advocate.
doomsday predictions. Right? Yeah,
we've
absolutely
read
was.
them. We
Yeah.
stay up on KSU because we know how important it is to Frankfurt.
Senator,
and so
thank you for discussing that very important topic with us. Can you kind of give us a little bit of a legislative update at this point? There have been a ton of bills that have been presented. We're just getting to the point now where a bunch of them are getting signed. Where are we in the process? Are there some bills we should be looking forward to passing? And where are we with the budget right now?
I think we're coming. I wish I knew the budget. Okay. I think leadership will be working hard. It's a tough. I mean, one of the reasons why this is such a miracle with KSU is because of how tough the budget is. Okay, and it's a tough budget year. The road fund is a really tough because the gas price, even though the gas prices are back up, the road fund's based upon the gas prices, but it lags, and so they've been down for a couple of years, right? And so we are not getting money into the road fund on that. So that's a tough situation on that. And for KSU to have gotten this is really a miracle. But going forward, they're coming together and they're trying to hash things out. One of the things the House is, well, we're all very strong on, but the House has been just Representative Petrie is he wants to continue to cut the income tax. That's on the agenda. And so they're making the budget so that we have the surplus necessary. We missed the windows this last time, but he wants to have the surplus necessary to cut the income tax next time on that. So that's has made it even tighter in a tight year. And we're now some of the money that we had from back during COVID is that caused all the inflation is gone away. We don't have that money to allocate going forward in future years. So that's what's made it tough. And quite frankly, the process has been a tough process. A week ago,
we lost him there. That is unfortunate. We were just
no.
Oh, there he is. There he is.
There
he is.
No, you're on my phone. I have to keep pressing it or it goes away. Can you see me now?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So a week ago, I don't think our leadership really knew how all this was going to turn out. I mean, there's a big problem between the House and the Senate on that big communication issue. But I get the sense that they've worked it out. There's still a lot of work to do over this weekend before we get to a final budget. And there's still a lot that's not known on that, on what they're going to do. We're going to see next week what's going to happen with the budget. So I wish I could tell you. I know I am concerned about the road projects. Everybody got, they basically said you get your top priority, and they would tell us maybe 5 priorities. Well, I've got 6 counties. Okay. So, and I have got a couple of top priorities here in Franklin. And they say you get one of them. Okay. And maybe not that one because of the road projects, which as you know, we that is one of my focuses on roads. I've been very concerned that we're able to try to fund the issues that we need here. And this, from the Singing Bridge to some of the other priorities we have down the road.
When I see Senator Petrie up at the restaurant, first I say, man, drop it to 0. Just take it down all you can. He said, well, we've got guidelines, but I say, well, Texas, Tennessee, and Florida are booming. California's losing businesses right and left. New York's losing them right and left. All of New England states are losing them, but they're mainly locating to those 3 states. Are we missing out because of that? Because we're still not at 0% income tax?
I think we need to get there. And you can't do it all at once, but we need to keep on that progress. And we probably need to, we did some things where instead of going 0.5% at a time, we could go 0.25% at a time. If that's what it takes, as long as we're working towards 0. And because those are, but we're seeing more companies come in because of that. And I think you're going to see companies come in with the energy growth that we've got. So I'm so confident, and I'm not going to complain about Representative Petrie. I really
I
appreciate
mean, he's a
the
great
things
guy.
he's doing he's being the hard guy. Okay,
Yeah,
it's like
yeah.
Dr. Acappo is going to have to be. He's going to have to
Dr.
take a page
Acapos
from
for sure.
Representative.
Right.
I hit
Yeah,
Senator
he's going to have to be that.
I hit him up on Frankfurt every time I see him. Every time the legislator comes in to eat, I'm pushing Frankfurt. But I hit Rob and some of those other guys. I said, man, let's get to zero quick because we're missing out on a lot of companies locating here because Nashville is just exploding. We've got a friend that lives in Nashville, and he's always rubbing it in my nose.
Yeah.
We just got
our
Jack
tax structure. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Senator, I have one more. I have one more question about the legislative update. There's been a lot of questions. There's a bill presented in the House from our local representative about a potential additional check that may come out. There has been some discussions about retiree. Obviously, Frankfurt has a ton of state retirees. Has there been any, including Craig, has there been any movement on any of these bills that would affect retirees or state employees at this point?
I think the people who are looking for the 13th check, I think might be happy this year. Okay. And again, it's not over until it's over. What?
Didn't the Senate pass it already, or was it the House that passed it?
No.
Oh, darn, tough question.
Well, he did say that we were going to be pleasantly surprised.
I think the House has passed it already, and the Senate's looking positive for it.
Yeah. Well,
back, Jay.
Let's see if he comes back to us. If he doesn't, we want.
No.
Oh, there he is.
Here I am.
There he is.
Okay.
Sorry.
I got it. I am sorry. This is. Yeah, the tech I was trying to use my, but no, that 13th check is I think you'll get it, but it's a little slightly misleading. Those that are the longer term retirees will get a full 13th check, and then there's another tier that will get half of the 13, and the most recent retirees will get a quarter of that 13th check.
Let me ask this, Jay: is it a certain amount? Or will the retirees, like the directors and commissioners that retired on a much bigger salary than, say, an admin 2, will they get their full retirement check also?
If they retired, and I have to look at the cut, if they retired 20 years ago, they're all going to get their full 13th check. Okay. Now, even the managers from 20 years ago, weren't making what the managers are today, right?
Absolutely.
And so, and then as you come forward, then the next group, I think it's a 10-year bucket there. They get half, and the most recent ones only get a quarter. But it doesn't matter whether what you're paid, you will get a quarter of it. But everybody is paid better than they were 20 and 30 years ago.
Yeah. I retired assistant director, and I know the assistant directors today are making a heck of a lot more than I did when I retired.
And you're not going to tell us how long ago it was when you retired, right?
Oh yeah, 2007. So yeah.
Okay.
30 years.
Yeah.
I put 30 years in.
Yeah.
Well, you're pretty close to that breakout there. I'm not sure whether you get a full check or a half check on that.
Well,
but
if he doesn't get the full one, we're going to hear about it, Senator. That's just the way it's going to be.
I know a lot of you guys. We're going to have a little talk.
That's right. That's right.
Okay.
Yeah. So,
very good.
Senator Williams, we want to thank you for joining us today. This has been incredibly informative. We want to thank you for your hard work for the community of Frankfurt and Franklin County. Thanks again. We will have you back on the show, but thanks for joining us today.
Yes.
Hey, glad to be on it. Appreciate you guys doing this. Anything else I can do, let me know.
All right. Thank you. Thank you, Senator.
Yeah. Talk to y'all later.
All right. That was Senator Jay Williams. We will have him back on, as well as our other local officials, and have them talk about what we have going on. That was a great legislative update. He is working very hard for the citizens of Frankfurt. He's got a very large area that he covers, all the way from northern Kentucky all the way down into Frankfurt, and he spends a lot of time here in Frankfurt, even in the off season, as you might call it.
Right.
And he knows the area well, and a really good person outside of the legislature as well. Craig, we are moving to that point of the day where we are talking about some of the other things going on, and one of the things that we have going on right now is Da Vinci's Pizza actually is giving away a free pizza at every Franklin County girls softball game. Is that what I've heard?
Right, every home game, they'll do everybody buys a ticket, or however they do it electronically now. And then I don't know if it's the coaches that draw it, or if it's the guy up in the radio booth, David Hecker, but they call out a number, and that lucky person gets a 14-inch Da Vinci's pepperoni pizza. This is the second year we've been doing that, and it's like what you and I have talked about the other day, that we want more businesses in Franklin County to step up and help these teams, not just a $50 donation or a $250 donation. There's other things you can do. You can buy team meals, like the football team. They generally get people to buy every pregame meal. Basketball team, we did that. When the basketball team was parking at the football games, Da Vinci supplied them with the guys out in the parking lot in the cold with fresh hot pizzas. So we're doing it, and you kind of inspired me to really jump into the
I
Franklin
inspired
County part.
you. Wow,
Yeah, yeah, pretty much with your donation, and
well,
so
I,
we're heavily involved in all the schools, and we're going to just get more involved as we
I,
go
I
along.
I talked to Eddie James today, as I do every day, and he's talking about how we have kids who are in the spring now. A lot of time they're still outside, but they're lifting every morning before school. These kids are getting big, and they're working hard, and we're getting to that point right now that we expect for that team to make it to the state championship just about every
Yep.
year, and he's got them there. Same goes for our girls and boys basketball teams, and for our softball and baseball teams. If you are a member of this community, and if you have been a member of these teams, and some of them I was not a member of the football team, but if you realize in fact, you probably don't realize the impact that a donation or even your time will go to help these young students. Even if you don't have a student at Franklin County or Western Hills or Frankfort High, if you donate some time, and if you have the ability to donate some money or even some food or things of that nature to these programs, you do not understand the impact you are going to have on these young lives. So it's kind of a challenge you and I will put out to our other fellow business owners out here, that we need you guys to step up, help out the Wolverines, and help out the Panthers, and help out the Flyers, help out the Royals out at Frankfort Christian Academy,
Yeah, Good
every
Shepherd.
and Good Shepherd as well. Help out these programs, Elkhorn and Bondurant, because it's not just about sports. It's about extracurriculars, which actually helps these kids get into college. And it's proven that kids who are involved in extracurricular activities, not just sports, but I'm talking in the choir and the band and things like that, their overall GPA and academics improve, as well as their own mental health and well-being as well, not just above the physical. So that's kind of our challenge to you guys tonight. Do what you can
Let
to.
me tell the one good story. If you recall last year, you can probably tell it better than me, on the football player that lost, or had his electric motorbike stolen. Can you tell what the community did for that
Yeah, so
overnight?
it was kid goes out, has the absolute best game of his high school career. I won't mention his name for specific reasons, but
Right.
has the absolute best game of his career in high school, and he player of the game, and walks out, and somebody had stolen his motorbike
E-bike, whatever it was. Yeah.
that he actually bought himself just I think it was a week or two before. Was very proud of it with his own money. And it got stolen within 12 hours, and it was actually less than that, but that was when they presented it to him. The community had come together and raised enough money to go replace that bike. And when they pulled up, when Leroy Brock and the other coaches pulled
Right.
up with this, you do not understand what it means to a family when a kid is going through a hard time, and a community and the coaches step up for these kids. Maybe you grew up at a time when you didn't have, coaches that did that, but we have that now. And these coaches, and this goes to Western Hills and Frankfort High and all the other schools as well, that you have some community leaders and some family and some members of those teams who genuinely care about every player on the team. It's not just about winning and losing, but they were able to replace the bike and what could have been a tragic event in this kid's life, and maybe giving him a bad attitude about sports and people and things. The humanity that came out actually made it a whole lot better.
Yeah, and he didn't know it was coming either.
Oh, absolutely not.
The people it wasn't a GoFundMe. It's just people ponying up money.
Nope. We received.
And they went and bought it that morning and got it to him.
Yep. There was a text message there was a text message that went out and a post that was on social media, and it fixed it.
Yeah.
So
that was really cool.
Yeah. Before we get to the good story of the day, follow up on a story we had last night, Craig. We were discussing the coverage of the trash services with the city, and one of the things that was mentioned was the response by Commissioner Richardson, who had some strong words for our local newspaper and the coverage of city meetings, and he wanted to set the record straight on what the actual truth was with the city overhaul. I'm going to play that for you. We have it tonight, and then after we do that, we'll discuss it a little bit.
Okay.
So that was from a 10 a.m. meeting last Tuesday.
Can I speak? Can we speak to that?
Okay, first off, I've encouraged the public to quit reading the newspaper. The newspaper put that out there, and it was absolutely detrimental to the city. I've received 100 phone calls. At no time did any one of us up here talk about the reason we wanted to show the cost was to compare it to what we are currently paying, what your tax dollars paying. That was really a number, and the paper puts out a survey. No one ever said that. No one ever said that up here, and I'll defend that. I'm very frustrated. Your passion on that, I agree with you. And I will vote if tonight a motion comes up that we're gonna make citizens pay, I will vote no. I never once said that. In fact, no one up here said that. We're trying to be the most efficient with tax dollar we can, but garbage isn't the only issue we're dealing with in a budget. So again, I hope the paper quotes me. I am sorely disappointed, which I have worked in this town and lived here long enough that I wouldn't expect any different. So again, that's the way I feel about the newspaper.
Well, he's not mincing words there, Craig. Your thoughts on Commissioner Richardson and his comments about the...
Commissioner Richardson was addressing a citizen comment that they allowed to be made. And the fellow was basically saying, we pay city taxes now and we're getting our trash picked up. Why should we have to pay again, whether it was the $18 or the $31? And Commissioner Richardson straightened them out that, and we've tried, we put it forth ourselves. The city is not going to put a fee for trash collection. They're just trying to decide whether to go outsource it.
They're calling outsourcing versus keeping it in-house.
In-house. And a lot of misinformation has been put out there. As I told you yesterday, there's Facebook posts out there that are just completely wrong. But you can't address them because you'd be on Facebook all day long.
All day long, right?
Yeah. So I thought it would be better, and we thought it would be better to just have Commissioner Richardson just use his own words. That way, we're above the noise. We're putting out the facts. We're not clipping out a statement to make it sound bad one way or another. But we've got to, with the city in the shape that it's in, and we had Senator Williams on talking about what the path forward for KSU. Everybody's trying to work with the city too, and they're working hard to write some things. And as you know, and so we got to support them and try to keep as much of the false statements, exaggerations, innuendo, whatever you want to say. We got to keep presenting the truth, and that's the whole mission of our podcast.
one of the things that Commissioner Richardson was mentioned, and each of the members mentioned this, all 4 commissioners and the mayor, all 5 members of the city commission pointed out that at no point has the city commission or any members of the city commission or city staff ever said that they intend at this point to make the members of the community pay for whatever services they get, that if they outsource it, that the city will continue to pay for those services. It's just a matter of whether they're going to do it as a city of Frankfort or a city department, or whether we're going to outsource it to a contract. And they have voted Monday to actually outsource that. And it was a 4-1 decision, as we said, with Commissioner Unger being the one. She made an excellent point. Her point was simply this. She agreed with Commissioner Richardson. She simply said, if you're going to charge a fee, when's it going to be? Because if it's not now, at some point you may have to. So, but at this point, it's never been said that they were going to do that. And as that discussion continues, we will obviously keep tracking what decisions are made and what ultimately that means for you here in Frankfort and Franklin County.
And this is why people need to watch our elected officials' meetings, fiscal court and the city commission, because they're spending our dollars. But
every bit of it.
We'll see, 10 or 20 views, and then people get all tore up because of something that they think is going to happen, they perceive is going to happen, but they didn't watch the meetings because they think they go too long or something. I'm nerdy enough that I watch them. Most of the city commission meetings now, hour and 15 minutes. They're not the 3 and 4 hour things they used to be when questions were brought up and information was actually dug into, which I miss those days. But
I do not miss them personally, Craig.
I know you personally don't. But the information brought forth was very knowledgeable and factual.
Well, I think that we have a group of individuals who are doing their best in both the city and the county and local governments. And we have a lot of people who are employed there. And one of the last things that we'll mention about this topic is that they said any of the people in those departments will transition to other jobs, even the admin
Correct.
roles. So
nobody's going to be let go.
Yeah, so we will keep that in mind and go from there. Craig, the last story of the day is kind of our feel-good story of the day, but we're also going to honor a local student. This is kind of a cool one, I have to admit, for a couple of reasons. The first reason, let me get that off there real quick. The main reason this is important is because it honors my neighbor and my friend, Max Perry. Max passed his track examination. He wants to be an electrician, and his examination was for his electrical apprenticeship. The pass rate for the track exam is less than 50% statewide. So it's about 46%. And the great thing about this for Max, he actually works at AE right now. But the great thing for Max is by passing this exam, and he had to take 4 classes at Franklin County High School and then pass the exam. The great thing about this is it knocks an entire year off of his apprenticeship. He gets to move that much quicker to have his goals and move from there. And one other thing about Max, I will say this backdrop right here, all of this backdrop back here, Max built this. 17-year-old kid built this right here. And he's not only my neighbor, but his parents, Mike and Felina, I know they are very proud of Max. He is a good kid, and we are very, very proud of you, Max. He's effectively cut that year off, and he's a great example of what hard work and how it pays off. So again, congratulations to Max on that huge accomplishments.
Maybe this will lead into him starting his own business. Because
I can
when
only
was the
hope.
last time you saw a HVAC electrician or plumber go out of business? They don't go out of business; they retire.
That's right. That's right, and they do very well for themselves. So, and that's about where we will end it today. We're breaking down the big issues that impact our community and shining a light on the people doing things the right way. Another big thank you to Senator Jay Williams for joining us tonight, and thank you for watching Apex News Above the Noise podcast. If you want the news that actually matters without the spin. Join us every single day here at 5 o'clock or 5:03, depending upon when we go live. But
we will. Technology works.
That's right. But make sure you hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and share it with someone who needs to see it. I am obviously Kyle Thompson. I am joined every single day with my friend Craig Blanton, and we will see you tomorrow. Have a great night, everybody.
Yep.